who is above age of 21, who is working or who is a business owner can get a mortgage. As a non-resident also in UAE, banks are lending mortgage.
What is the main difference in between if somebody who is a resident in Dubai wants to have a mortgage and somebody visiting on a tourist visa? What is the difference?
Want to get mortgage, the maximum mortgage amount that they get is 80% of the property value.
Okay.
Right. But as a non-resident who is not residing in UAE, they're a tourist. So bank will not lend them 80%, but they will lend them 65%, which is itself a good amount because no other country no other country banks will lend non-resident mortgage. So here in Dubai, it is a good thing where you can get 60 to 65% of the property value mortgage, even if you're not resident.
What is the minimum salary a person should be having to get a mortgage from it?
Person, as you said, working in India is around 20,000 dirham equivalent post-tax deduction.
Hi, good morning, and this is Aditya yet once again with you with a new podcast. And today I have invited my very, very good friend, Mr. Nitin Nair, from a company called FinPlate, and they are specialists in mortgages and all the financial solutions in Dubai. And the reason why I have invited Mr. Nitin Nair today is because I've seen a lot of clients coming across to Dubai to buy a property. They have good amount of misconceptions and misbeliefs and myths, I would say, when it comes to taking any kind of financial solution from a bank or any kind of mortgages, especially to buy a property. So
thank you, Aditya. It's always lovely to meet you. And today we are here at your podcast, which again, it's a great pleasure to be here. And as you rightly said, I believe people in UAE have a lot of wrong misconception about the mortgage industry. And I believe through this podcast, we can definitely answer those questions. And it will be a lovely podcast for you and your audience.
So yes, Nitin, basically when I come across any of the prospects who inquire to buy property in Dubai, so half of the time it happens like they want to have a bank mortgage because to buy a property in Dubai is not a small thing and it requires a huge amount of investments. And everybody at least once take this part into consideration that if his intention of buying a property can be financed by the bank. So the very first thing that comes to my mind is like, who can actually take a mortgage from the bank based in Dubai?
So Aditya, as you rightly said, because nowadays property prices are really high in Dubai, and mainly whoever wants to buy it, they don't have the liquidity to buy from their own funds. So they are approaching banks to get mortgage. So here in UAE, anyone who is above age of 21, who is working or who is a business owner can get a mortgage. This is for the resident. And even as a non-resident also in UAE, banks are lending mortgage.
Oh.
So as a non-resident, you can get mortgage here.
Wonderful. So you mean to say that it doesn't matter whether you are a resident in Dubai or you are like just a tourist visiting Dubai, but you can have the mortgage.
Definitely. So you're a resident, you're a tourist, you are a non-resident, you're living in any other part of the world, you can still get mortgage here. The criterias are different, but definitely yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. So let me ask you on the same part that what is the main difference in between if somebody who is a resident in Dubai wants to have a mortgage and somebody visiting on a tourist visa? What is the difference from the bank's point of view?
So from the bank's point of view, so here in Dubai, what if a resident who is a salaried or a businessman who want to get mortgage, the maximum mortgage amount that they get is 80% of the property value.
Okay.
Right. But as a non-resident who is not residing in UAE, they're a tourist. So bank will not lend them 80%, but they will lend them 65%, which is itself a good amount because no other country no other country banks will lend non-resident mortgage. So here in Dubai, it is a good thing where you can get 60 to 65% of the property value mortgage, even you're not resident here.
Oh, that's wonderful. So it means that Dubai gives almost, good opportunities for the people who are even visiting Dubai on a
Absolutely.
tourist visa. until and unless they are working professionals and maybe the business owners.
Business owners.
So the financials has to be in place.
Exactly. The documentation, the financial part has to be in place because it's like maximum people are approaching mortgage now. So banks are getting little more strict on the KYC part, on the
Okay.
income part. So they are going through all the documents properly, and then only they will fund you. So if your documents are in place, it's easy to get.
Okay. So my next question, Nitin, is going to be on the tourist part, where somebody wants to have a mortgage and he's not a resident of Dubai. Let's assume a situation where a person is a salaried employee in India or in any other country for that matter. What is the minimum salary a person should be having to get a mortgage from Dubai?
So, as a non-resident, the minimum salary criteria for a person, as you said, working in India, is around 20,000 dirham equivalent post-tax deduction, which is a big amount because in other countries, salaries are not that high.
Okay.
So, but we have other option also. There are banks who give them mortgage based on what average balance they maintain in their personal account.
Okay, so you're
So based on that, they can get the mortgage too.
So you can saying you're trying to say that if somebody is not a salaried employee in any organization around the globe, or if he's maintaining the healthy amounts in his savings account in his resident country, on that basis, a loan can be
Yes,
also granted.
it can be. So how bank works is they will ask them for all the documentations, KYCs, their ownership, like if they're a businessman, their ownership document of the company and all. If they are salaried, their salary certificate, bank statements where salary is being credited. But in other countries, because Dubai is tax free, so not like other countries where India, for an example, it's a taxable country. So a lot of people, they don't have liquidity in their savings account. But if they have that liquidity and they have a certain amount of money, which is around 25,000 plus dirham, lying in their account for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they will be eligible.
So you were trying to say that somebody who is not having a regular inflow in the bank accounts in the form of salary or in the form of like bank business income, and still that amount is lying there in the savings account, still he will be eligible for the for the
Yes.
mortgages.
So someone have money lying in their saving account, but they should have a regular income. Either they should be salaried or they should be business owner doing business, and so they should have an active income. That is for sure.
I see. So a regular inflow of income has to be there in the account. It is not like like a million or let's say 1 crore of rupees lying in the Indian account, but that person is not having a regular income. So he's not eligible for the bank mortgage.
So if that particular account don't have, and that is just a saving account, we can still use that account for the eligibility here in Dubai.
Okay.
But for the supporting, we need other statements which shows his regular income.
Okay. So a person has to have a regular income.
Yes.
So it is just a differentiation of the account, whether the money is lying into savings account rather than it's lying
Current
there in the current account in which he's getting his regular credits. If the regular credit is not there at all, so it means he's not eligible. Okay, that's great. So my next question to you, Nitin, is since you have told us categorically and specifically that this much amount is required to be eligible for a bank mortgage in Dubai, which is, I think you have just mentioned, 20,000 dirhams and equivalent.
Yes, if they are salaried.
If they are salaried.
Post-tax.
Okay, so do we have any kind of differentiation in this amount if a person is having a business income?
Yes, if they have a business income, bank will consider what average they maintain in their personal account.
Okay.
So if the average balance is 25,000 dirham, that's the entry point for one bank, and it goes higher.
I see. So if a person is having a salary which may be little less than 20,000 dirhams, I'm talking about the business owners, and in his account, which is a saving account, amount is lying which is equivalent to or even more than 25,000 dirhams on a regular basis, like for at least for 3 months.
Yes.
That can be considered.
Yes.
Okay. So it means a person is having a less salary, but the amount lying in his savings account is just right on the threshold, which can actually make him eligible to take a mortgage from any of the Dubai banks. But for the business owners, this is not a mandatory thing to have a particular amount as a salary. But amount which is lying there in the savings account matters.
Definitely, because we are not taking their business income
I see.
here in Dubai. So if someone is doing business in India, we will not be taking their business account details.
Okay.
We will be taking their saving account details
Okay.
and how much money they are able to maintain. Because saving account, if money is lying, means that person have that amount in their savings. So bank consider that as income.
Okay, again, coming back to the same point, Nathan. So you have categorically told what is the eligibility criteria of the non-residents who wants to have a mortgage to buy a property in Dubai. What are the thresholds when it comes to the salaried professional in any other part of the world, or if they are the business owners, what is the criteria that is required to for them to get the mortgage from here? But what is the biggest concern that you have seen in all the cases that you get on a regular basis, especially when it comes to the non-residents? What is the major point that is the reason why their files or any application gets rejected?
So the major reason if the file is getting rejected is the compliance issue.
Okay.
Because if a person living in India is clean and not involved in any kind of wrongdoing, and so then there is no problem. Because though they are non-resident in UAE, there is a compliance check which happens. Bank do their entire process, and if they clear the compliance check, then only, and with that all the documents should be in place.
Okay.
The KYCs, the utility bill where they're living, everything should be on in place. Then it gets easy. Otherwise, the main issue is compliance.
So let's put a little more light on this particular part where this is the main reason of getting the files being rejected. Uh, what is that compliance issue? I'll give you an example to you. If somebody is employed in India and he is having his name involved in, let's assume, criminal cases or maybe in civil suits or whatsoever, but he's very clean in terms of his financials, like he's maintaining all the regular salaries and all the business credit. So what is that issue which counts, which makes him non-eligible?
So the main reason why files get rejected is the compliance. The most important is compliance should be clear. The client name should not come in any world check things. And if compliance is clear and his financial documents are in place and he is in the criteria of bank's financial requirement, he will get the mortgage.
Wonderful. So if you can just put a little bit of light on that word that you have used, is the world check. What exactly is this?
So for an example, all the countries, they have their database where any person doing any wrong thing, their records are there with them. So if your name or a person similar to your name is in their database, so it gets difficult for you to get the mortgage. Then they will ask you a lot of queries. Where were you at this time? And we have to give them all those documents to prove that you're not the same person.
I understand, because as people know that, I've been an investment banker, earlier. So when I used to work for one of the multinational banks, so whenever somebody used to come to us to open a bank account, they used to have the similar criteria or the world check. I don't want to go into the details since I don't know what are the details. So if there is a name mismatch, or let's say a name which is very common and that name matches the world check, which raises the concerns for the bank for not to go ahead with any kind of application through him, bank doesn't go.
True.
So it means the financial has to be good and his name should not be in that list.
Exactly.
Oh,
Even if it's a common name, if he gives all the documentations required that he's not that same person, bank will be okay with it. But they will take their time to check and do all their homework.
Okay. So my next question is, when you are or anybody is a non-resident and wants to apply a mortgage in Dubai to buy a property, without naming a bank, what is the highest percentage that you have seen in your career? Like, a bank is granting mortgage up to a certain percentage, which is the highest that you have seen in all your experience through for a non-resident.
So the maximum eligibility for a non-resident that bank gives is 65% of the property value
To the non-residents.
to the non-resident.
65% is the maximum that
Maximum that
a
they
person can get.
Yes.
I understand. Nitin, tell me one more thing about when it comes to the non-residents. For all the experience that you have in applying for the banks on the behalf of the clients who wants to buy a property, nowadays, what is that the people are going forward to more? Like, they are going for the apartments category or for the townhouses or villas?
So the people who are taking mortgage, it's apartment more and townhouses less. The reason it's not that people don't want to get more townhouses, because the townhouses values are higher. So a lot of people right now are end users and who are working in Dubai. So for them, the budget is 2 million or less.
Okay.
So the number of cases are more for apartment, but there are people who are interested in townhouses and they are buying it if they have that capability of doing it because they're preferring townhouses.
Okay. So now coming back again to the residents, and since as we all know that all the residents, if the financials are all correct, they are very much aware, eligible for the bank loan or bank mortgage. What is the main reason for the residents in particular? Is the reason for the file rejection?
The main reason is their AECB report, because a lot of people, what they don't understand is if they don't pay a bill, if it's just a phone bill, right? But if they don't pay it, they think it's nothing wrong. But no, anything that you do in UAE is they're connected with AECB report, that is Al Ittihad Credit Bureau report. Even you buy a postpaid SIM, it gets registered there, everything. So if you don't pay your dues on time, so your score goes down, and it brings remark on your AECB report. So when a bank, first thing that bank do for a resident is pulling their AECB report. So the moment when they pull the AECB report and they see this guy is not good with their his finances, he is not paying his dues on time, that's the first point for a bank to reject the case.
I understand. So you were trying to say that even if somebody is not paying the bills on time, let's say some bill is getting overdue by a couple of days, still it hits my score?
Not couple of days, but then if you have a problem with the provider and you don't pay the bill and you just leave it, so it
Okay.
leaves the mark there, which shows in the red color, no, this guys
Nice.
haven't cleared it, it's overdue. So anything which is overdue for a bank, whatever the reason can be, but that overdue for a bank means you're not paying your time on time.
Okay, so let's assume if somebody is having a little bit of a confusion on his Diva bill or any mobile operating bill, and that is a genuine concern. He got a little bit of a more bill than expected, and he is not paying the bill without being investigated for. And if that person delays the bill payment for a couple of months, but he has a reason to delay that, so that still will affect my
No, so that if he has all the document where he is in challenging the bill with the provider and he has document in place, he's in touch with them, so we can provide bank the reason why this due overdue is showing, and which later on he can settle it. That's not a problem. But if he has a credit card, he don't pay the credit card bill, or he has an installment which he don't pay and overdue shows there. So for that it gets difficult. Then he has to give us bank a genuine reason why it's not done, and he has to give the proofs to bank.
I understand. So a couple of days delay is not be a problem, but I really urge all the people who are paying their regular bills, please pay the bills on time, because it affects your score whenever you try to have any kind of mortgage from the bank, even the personal loan. It matters a lot because that report is universal.
Exactly.
And no matter what kind of finances that you're looking to take from a bank, that report is there. That report will be there. So I request everybody, and I'm sure that all my listeners and viewers are paying their bills on time, irrespective of any mortgage requirements. So one more thing, Nitin, I would like to have a little bit of clarity about the debt to burden ratio. Like whenever a person, if he's a resident and he's having a particular amount as a salary or as a business income, what that term DBR means to him when it comes to his eligibility for the loan.
So in UAE, DBR, that is debt burden ratio, is 50% of the income.
Okay.
So as per bank, you are allowed only to pay 50% of your income in any sort of liability.
Okay.
You cannot take your 100% income in liability.
So it means that if somebody's having 40,000 dirhams as a regular income, so the 50%, which is 20,000 dirhams,
Exactly.
will be eligible for the mortgage repayments.
Exactly. Not only mortgage, if he has an auto loan, that installment should come in that 20,000. If he has a credit card, bank consider 5% of that credit card as a liability, though he is not using it.
Okay.
Still, they consider that 5%,
Okay.
because if you have a credit card, you will use it at
Right.
some point of time. So, whatever your liability is there, though it's an auto loan, personal loan, mortgage, it should be under 20,000.
Okay. So the 20,000, which is the 50% or any amount for that matter, has to be free. It should be
Exactly.
freely available
Exactly.
without any kind of liability requirements or the installments.
True.
That is what.
True. It is a very good thing because that 50% which is free will not allow you to get under burden of something. So, which is a very good decision that banks in UAE are taking, that only 50% of income you can pay in any sort of installments.
Okay. So Nitin, tell me something about when it comes to the residents. If a resident who wants to buy property or have any kind of wants to have any kind of mortgage, what is the major difference in terms of bank considering their application when it comes to salaried employee and a business owner?
So for salaried, it's very simple because they have a salary which is coming in their account, and they are allowed to take 50% of that in any sort of liability. So if a person who's salaried want to take mortgage, it's very simple thing,
Not
simple
complicated.
calculation, not complicated. But for a self-employed, it's not the same because there are a lot of other documents involved. To know a self-employed's income, there is VAT written, what his business is paying to the VAT. That becomes an eligibility criteria. The turnover becomes an eligibility criteria. Audit reports are there, which is mandatory now. So all these factors are there. So banks do more check for a self-employed because all the document what is provided to bank is from his own company.
I understand.
So
So it's a separate entity. One
Exactly.
entity is the person who wants to have a loan as the owner of the business house, and the business house becomes the another entity for that matter.
Exactly.
So the compliance becomes a little bit more than the salaried employee. But it is not impossible task. I have seen many people who are business owners, and their loan application or mortgage application is just as easy because they keep all the compliances checked. They are very compliant in terms of their financials. Everything is super clean, so their application also is like super clean when
True,
it comes to
true.
the mortgages for those self-employed people. So Nitin, I see a lot of people talking about a very specific term, that is LTV, that is loan to value. Can you put some light on it?
So loan to value is the amount that bank will finance you on a particular property.
Okay.
So loan to value for a resident in UAE is 80% if they are expat, and if they are UAE national, it is 85. That's the maximum.
Okay.
Okay. And
So you mean to say that the point that we earlier discussed, the eligibility for a resident is 80%. So is that 80% is the loan to value?
exactly.
LTV.
LTV.
Okay.
So loan to value that bank will provide you
Okay.
when you're buying a property.
So let's assume a property is worth 10 million for that matter. And after all the eligibility calculation, the person is very much eligible to buy that property. So will he get the 80% of the 10 million property?
No.
Is that what you're trying to say? No.
So there is a capping. So till 5 million, bank give 80%. But the moment the property value is 5 million or above, the LTV, loan to value, reduced to 70%.
I see. So the property, let's say, is exactly of 5 million. So the person is eligible to get 80% of that 5 million.
No, 5 million property, bank gives 70%.
Okay. So let's say 4.5 million, which is
4.8 million property,
4.8
you
million
can get
property.
80%.
So you can get 80%, and 80% is of the property value is called the LTV.
Exactly. So there is one more thing. So when you take a mortgage from the bank have an independent identity valuation team who comes to do a valuation of the property.
Okay.
If you're buying a property for 4.8 million, but the valuation is 4.6 million, so bank will not give you 80% of 4.8 million. They will give you 80% of 4.6 million
The valuation
amount.
amount.
But at the same place, if the valuation come 4.9 and you're buying your contract F is 4.8, then bank will give you 80% of 4.8. So basically, whichever is lower, bank finance you 80% of that. The loan to value will be based on valuation or the contract F, whichever is lower.
Now coming back to the valuation part, because I see valuation plays a very important role when it comes to the final disbursement of the loan.
Yes.
Can we get first of all, my question to you is, for off-plan properties, can we get the mortgage?
Yes, but not all banks are doing it. Only doing it for the master developers, very few bank, and the maximum loan to value, as we were discussing, it is 50%. But there are criterias. The property should be completed 50%. Client will only get 50% when they pay their 50% first.
Okay, so again on to the valuation part. So you mean to say if a property is off plan, and let's assume the 50% of the construction has already happened, so it means that property becomes eligible for the valuation?
Yes, if it's a master developer, there are banks who are
What do you mean by a master developer?
like Nakhil, Miraz. There are few names, big names, Imar. So these developers, few banks are doing off-plan property for them.
Okay, it depends with the agreement of the banks
Exactly.
and the property development, companies and all that. I see. So usually, uh, I see a lot of this case, especially when the property is about to get ready and the handover letters are received to the respective owners. But on to the rest application, the construction percentage is little less than 70%, or let's say less than 80%. Still, that property after getting the handover letter will be eligible for the valuation.
So yes, once the BCC is there, handover notice is there, banks will do the valuation. They
What
are
is what is
eligible.
BCC?
Building completion certificate.
Okay.
So once these documents are there, bank is ready to do the valuation for that particular property. But if handover notice is there, this developer has to give all those documents to DLD, and they will update their site.
So it is
Dubai
very
Rest.
much possible.
Very much possible.
Even if on the Dubai Rest application, the completion of that particular building is showing less than 80%, but the BCC has been received, so it can be processed.
Yes, some bank will ask the Dubai Rest should be 100%, but till it is not 100% there, the developer will not send you the handover notice.
I understand.
Because if it is not 100% in Dubai Rest, means there is some work still going on, some approvals, some DEWA approvals. So developer will only send you the handover notice once it is 100% and it shows in the
So you
Dubai
mean
Rest
to
also.
say that valuation can still happen,
Yes.
but the disbursement will not happen
Not
till the time we don't have the
True. The final offer letter will not come.
So it means, because unfortunately, I've seen a couple of cases in my entire career of being a real estate broker, that I have signed the contract. If valuations has happened, and because the contract is of only for 60 days, 2 months, the completion letter, the final letter did not come, and their loan could not be processed. So in that case, we either have to extend the contract to another 30 days or 60 days, or whatsoever tenure that both parties gets agreed on. Otherwise, till the time you don't have that final letter, you are not supposed to get the final disbursement from the bank.
True.
I understand. So Nitin, tell me something about IBOR, or whatsoever that is pronounced, right?
It's basically Emirates interbank offered rate. So basically, when banks have transactions, central bank lend. So that particular rate is called as IBOR rate. Like in India, we have repo rate.
Okay.
So same here, it is the central bank rate,
Okay.
where the money is lent to banks.
Okay, so basically that is the benchmark of a bank to ascertain their rate of interest. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So rate of interest depend on IBOR also, but a lot of banks, they have their separate rate, which they give initially for 2 year, 3 year.
Okay.
And after that, it becomes to the variable rate, which is the central bank lending rate plus the bank margin of that particular bank. So every bank have a bank margin, depending. Some bank have 1%, some have 1.5, so 1 to 2. And plus the IBOR rate comes when it goes on to the variable rate.
So, I mean, it is too much of a technical, terminologies which is used by you, because that is your language to be used. But in general terms, can you explain IBOR on a much simpler way without,
So to understand this, it's basically when bank take money, what rate they are taking money.
So you mean to say the bank borrows it from people who keeps the money in the bank as savings account?
So basically, when bank borrow money means when bank X is borrowing from bank Y, what are they doing the transaction?
I see.
Central bank, they're borrowing from central bank. What is the rate they are taking? So basically, that rate is the IBOR rate in UAE.
Okay, I see. And banks take that benchmark of that rate and gives the further rate to the people who are borrowing for mortgages.
Exactly.
I
They
see.
keep some of their margin and then they give it to people.
So then tell me something about whether it happens in Dubai, which is the fixed rate and the variable rate of the bank interest. So like I've seen when I was a banker, so there was an option available in Indian banks where if you want to take a bank loan in terms of the home loan or the home finance, so they were, at my time, I was talking about a decade back, so there was two rates that are being offered to the people. One is fixed, let's say fixed 10%, and one is like variable, which keeps on changing. So is that concept is still there in Dubai, or it was
Yes.
ever there?
Yes, it is still here. But a lot of people, they don't want to go on variable rate because it's more fluctuating. And variable rate depends on the EBOR rate plus the bank's margin of that particular bank. So people in UAE, they're more towards fixed rate because they want at least for 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. They have a fixed rate where they don't have to face the challenge of EBOR going up and down.
Now coming back to the main part, if somebody from Dubai, and he's a resident or maybe a business owner, he wants to apply for a mortgage, what is the first step?
So the first step for an person who's looking for a mortgage or want to buy a property, it's always advisable that he first checks his eligibility.
Okay.
Because sometimes what happens, we go and we like some property, we finalize a property, and then when we come to bank, probably you are not eligible for that particular property. So the first and most important thing is contact a mortgage advisor and check your eligibility, whether are you eligible or what is your maximum eligibility. But eligible, there is another important aspect in this. For an example, I am a 50,000 salary guy and I'm eligible for a 3 million property also, but I will only get 80% of that. Rest 20% plus the other charges which is there, I need to arrange those money.
Correct.
So a lot of people, they like a property, they finalize it, but they don't have the down payment or the extra cost, and that's where they miss out on those properties.
I understand, because as a broker, I must tell you that whenever I get an inquiry from the different property portals and it happens to be a mortgage buyer, my first question is whether your pre-approval is ready or not.
Yes.
With all due respect to all the people who wants to buy a property, you can still see the property, you can still go for the viewing, the agent will happily show you the properties across. But when it comes to the final decision, at that time, it is always better and advisable to have the pre-approval letter from the bank, which it is basically a pre-screening of your eligibility, which gives you the clear picture of how much amount that you will be eligible for.
Yes.
Right? So this is a must-have before somebody wants to have a property. Otherwise, I've seen many people who take a good time to make a particular decision on a property. There's nothing wrong with it. You can, as I said, you can still go on for the viewings. But when it comes to, again, I want to reiterate, when it comes to the real time where you have to make a decision of buying a property, a pre-approval letter is a must-have, in my opinion.
Yes, it is very important because even the seller, when get to know the buyer is a mortgage buyer, seller want an assurity that if I'm signing the contract F after 1 month or 1.5 month, he should not come and say that I'm not getting the approval, because that wastes a lot of time for the seller too.
Correct.
So one, a seller want to see that. Second, it's benefit for the buyer also because they can negotiate harder with the seller.
Correct.
For an example, you are on the table to finalize the deal and you want to bargain or do something. You have that approval, you have that confidence that yes, bank is ready to lend me this amount, but I want this deal on this price. So seller also sees that, right? If you
Correct.
have an approval, you can sign it. You
Correct.
give me my price, I sign it now.
Correct.
So pre-approval definitely helps.
Absolutely, because I would like to tell my audience, like, one case that has happened in the past with me where I got an inquiry from a buyer, and that was 2 or 3 years back, and I asked him that whether you have a pre-approval or not, and he said that it is in the process. I said, okay, come and see the property, and he liked the property, and he said, I want to make an offer. And he offered, has given me 10% of the checks. I was about to prepare the contract B and contract E and F after that. But at the same point of time, somebody, his friends maybe, he advised that before you cut a 10% check, please check your eligibility. But he has given me the 10% check. And when he later found that he is not eligible for even the pre-approval because he by mistakenly one of his check got bounced 2 or 3 years back. That was very much recorded in the report that is supposed to be taken before any kind of approvals. So he was not eligible, and that 10% came in dispute of that property. So I always, whenever I meet a client or a prospect buyer, I always recommend him to get the pre-approval letter from the banks, at least to have a peace of mind. At least that will secure your 10% or any amount that you would like to give as a token to promise the property or to, hold on to the property. That really helps.
True. And one more, when you talk to a mortgage advisor and you take a pre-approval, you get to know the cost involved in that
Absolutely.
buying that property.
Penny to penny.
Exactly. So sometimes we say, I have a 20% and I like this property, I want to buy it because 80% will be financed from the bank. But there are other fees involved, like there is a DLD fees, real estate brokerage, mortgage registration. So there are other fees. So a person who is buying a property, he should have at least 7 to 8% extra of that property value, apart from the down payment that he has.
I understand.
So that also helps.
Definitely. Then. And let's assume a scenario where a client is already having a mortgage and he wants to close the mortgage after, let's say, a year or two. So what are the charges, or what are the, are there any penalties to foreclose the charges?
Yes.
Okay.
So 1% or 10,000, whichever is lower, bank charges that along with the VAT to pre-close. So for an example, you take a mortgage for 25 years and suddenly after 2-3 years you get cash from somewhere and you want to close that mortgage. So bank will take an early settlement charges of 10,000 or 1%, whichever is lower.
I understand. So it is uniform across all the banks in Dubai?
Yes, mostly.
So basically it's a guideline.
Exactly.
And does it keeps changing to...
No, it's the same.
Okay, yeah. I understand. Okay, Nitin, so tell me something about the little charges when you actually go for the transfer when your property is on mortgage. So at the trustee office, do we have any additional charges like mortgage registration or
Yes.
something like that?
Yeah. So basically, when you go on a transfer day to transfer the property, there are few charges involved. So DLD, it's 4% in Dubai. Mortgage registration fee is there. That again goes to DLD, which is 0.25% of the loan amount that you're taking from the bank, plus 290. Then there is a title deed fee of 580 dirham.
I see.
Then the trustee office, where you go for a transfer, that trustee office have a charge, which is 4,200.
Okay, so apart from the trustee fees,
Yeah.
these all charges will be taken if the file is on a mortgage.
Exactly.
So Nitin, tell me if the property is finalized, the contracts are there in place. Of course, after the pre-approval, that is very much advisable, and that is the only thing where somebody will go ahead with the contracts. So once the contract is there in place, I'm talking about the final contract, the MOU of the property. What is the steps to be taken after that?
So once the contract F is in place, the first thing is we need to initiate the valuation of that property.
Okay. So do we have any additional charges for this?
Yes.
Okay.
So bank to bank, it is 2,500 to 3,000 plus VAT that the buyer pays to the bank, and bank initiate the valuation.
I understand.
Once the valuation report is there, that's when we get to know whether the contract F value and valuation value, if there is a variance or not. If there is a variance, then that cash buffer also the buyer should have for, as we discussed previously also, if the valuation come less, bank will finance 80% of that.
So let's assume a scenario where the valuation of the property, which is finalized in the MOU at 4 million, the valuation of that same property comes to, let's say, 3.8 million, which is 200,000 lower than the MOU price.
Yes.
So the buyer has to arrange the differential amount.
Exactly.
Okay, this is what it is called cash buffer.
Cash buffer. Because generally when we are finalizing a property, we think we have the 20% and we have the other associate charges also.
Okay.
Let's go for the property. But then you should always have this cash buffer also, because you don't know, or you do your homework, what is the valuation coming in that area, see the transactions on Dubai, like DX being tracked or all those things, where you know that there are transactions happening in the same prices. Otherwise, if the valuation come less, whatever the difference is, that buyer has to manage.
Exactly, this is the scenario where it's very rare scenario, because whenever a buyer is serious, he always look to the accurate and the most appropriate value, which is very much available online in Dubai. Especially, everything is very transparent and clear. There are absolutely no gray areas when it comes to the property valuation, where you can easily check, being not from the real estate background, you can easily check what this property proposition was last transacted at.
True.
What this in the same tower, what same series apartment was bought at which price, you can check very easily here in Dubai. And but this scenario comes very rarely. I've seen, being a broker myself, because where the property was very much liked by, because it was an end user proposition. I'm talking about the case which I've seen, in which this cash buffer came, where the buyer knew that the valuation will not come up to that extent. The reason why he bought this property, because he personally liked this property, so he was absolutely okay to pay whatever the differential amount that would have come in any kind of valuation, and it came. So he was okay with it. But this kind of scenario happens only when you personally like a property and you want to pay a little bit of a more premium than the market price. But this happens.
Yes, this happens because sometimes even some buyers they don't do their research, and if seller is asking higher than the market
Yeah,
price.
this is one of the more common scenarios. Yes.
Yes, and so like if we do 20 cases, out of that one or two odd cases, it happened where the valuation come 50,000, 100,000 less, and that cash buffer is very important because if you don't have that, you have no way out to come out of it until unless you have a clause in the contract F which says that if the valuation is not coming same of the contract value, then I can back out of this deal with no penalty.
So very important to have a little bit of a cash surplus whenever you want to buy a property which you like personally, or which has a little bit of a bigger lawn, or maybe a swimming pool, or maybe on a higher floor or whatsoever. So if you're liking the property, you have to keep a little bit of a cash buffer always in kitty. Okay.
It's very important, and it's not only the charges that involve the down payment, the DLD and all. You have to pay service charges. Suddenly that's an extra cost, and if you are very neck to neck, it becomes very difficult. So you should always have that cash buffer. Okay, I am buying a property, this is my down payment, this is my associate fee, and I have a little extra money for some surprises that come in front.
And one very important thing, Nitin, I've missed, I wanted to ask you in the middle of the conversation. If a person is buying the second property, will that person will be eligible for again 80%?
So it is 60% of the property value.
Okay.
If the person have a mortgage, but if he close that mortgage, he can get 80% on the second property also.
Okay, so if a person is already having a mortgage on which he got 80%, so the next property in existence of that particular loan, he will be only eligible for 60%.
60. But there are some banks, if he has taken that mortgage 5 years, 6 years back,
Okay.
the property prices have gone high.
Okay.
His debt to bank is less than 60%, 50%. So there are banks which give him second
So it
property
depends.
also. Yeah, it depends bank to bank.
I understand. But immediately, if you want to have a bank mortgage after 6 months, so
Then
the,
it is
the
60%.
probability is a little bit on a lower side.
Lower side. And it is very important to have, so as this question is a very good example, that you have the right mortgage advisor with you, because sometime you don't know based on your profile which bank to approach. Probably you directly approach to a bank, and in that bank your profile doesn't fit, because every bank have their own criterias, and you don't fit into that particular bank. But there are other banks who will accommodate you, and you fit in their criteria. So it's very important to find a right mortgage advisor when it comes to buying a property, if you're a mortgage buyer.
Correct. And what is the differentiation in between somebody who wants to approach the bank directly and somebody who wants to come with, the mortgage brokers like you?
It's like, see, if when I was in bank, I will never say my bank rate is bad in the market, right? I'll always say good about the bank, right?
Okay.
So when you approach directly to a bank, that person who is there to sell, he only have one product to sell,
I see.
and he will sell you that product if you are eligible. But when you come to a mortgage advisor, we are working from your end, buyer's end, not from the bank end. So we will give you all the best options in the market, and we will give you options which bank suits you and why. So you have number of banks available, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go to bank, or everything is digital nowadays, right? Only time you have to visit bank is when you have to sign the final offer letter.
Correct. So it's entirely your choice if you want to go bank to bank, or you get to some place like where Nitin is having his office, or any other mortgage broker if required. So it's absolutely up to you whether you want to go to which option. So Nitin, tell me something about insurance policies when it comes to the mortgage. If somebody wants to have a mortgage, what kind of life insurance is mandatory by the central bank or by the banks?
So here in UAE, every bank have insurance when they give mortgage, and that is to secure the person who's taking the mortgage, because God forbid something happens. So the insurance pay the leftover amount, and the property is released to the family of the buyer.
Okay, to the hires, to the legal hires.
Exactly.
I understand.
And a lot of people think this is an extra cost and they want to get rid of that. But I believe it's a very good thing to take insurance.
Absolutely.
Because you never know. And so that small extra amount monthly from the pocket, you might feel like it is too much, but that extra amount is saving you or your family mainly from the debt that you are in.
Correct, from the bigger contingencies.
Exactly.
And I have personally seen this kind of scenario happening, unfortunately, with one of my known people, where the when at the time of taking the mortgage, he was not opted for this little bit of a premium, and then the consequences followed after his demise. So I would always recommend any person to have the property insurance plus the life insurance
Yes.
whenever any kind of liability is taken in addition. So this is a very mandate thing that one should have.
Yes, that's little extra cost, but it's always a saving thing for your life. So that extra cost will not hurt you much, but then it's always advisable.
And
to have.
everything is about the peace of mind. If a little
Exactly.
bit of extra money can give you that, I don't think there is any problem with that. Okay, so concluding this podcast and this conversation, would you like to tell the last points, or the point to be taken care of whenever you want to apply for a bank mortgage?
So what I want to say is, everyone in UAE want their own house because UAE is the place to be in, right?
Absolutely.
And everyone, that everyone is traveling from UK, US, and they want to settle down in UAE. And people who are living here, they have that dream of having their own house in UAE. But it's very important that when you want to buy a house, you make that 20% down payment and everything. But you need to understand, when you're taking mortgage, you have to pay monthly that amount also. So whenever you take a mortgage, ask the mortgage advisor what is the monthly installment that I'll be paying, and you should be comfortably you're comfortable to pay that particular amount every month, because it's not that 1 month, 2 month, it's for a period of 20-25 years you're taking, and you have to pay it on regular basis until unless you close it prior. So it is very important that when you finalize some property, check that installment and see that installment is not hurting you.
Correct.
Right? So that is very important.
I think this is where the DBR comes into the picture.
Exactly.
So in the end, I would like to add what Nitin just said. Yes, Dubai is the place to be in. Dubai is the place to live. And to have a property of your own is always a dream for many people. And especially when the policies, the government policy, the kind of support that you get from the government authorities in Dubai is exceptional. It's super transparent. It's super easy. And so as the mortgage process from the Dubai banks. So if everything is so super easy, why not to have your own property in Dubai, frankly? And this is what I would like to conclude my podcast. And I would like to say very, 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 very thank you, Mr. Nitin, to take this time for us, for our listeners and for our viewers. And hopefully we will meet very soon for the new updates which might come, which can create a little bit of more curiosity or a little bit of enlightenment among the people who wants to have mortgage in the near future. And I would like to thank you once again, Nitin. Thank you for being
It's
here.
always pleasure, Aditya. Whenever we talk and off the camera, on the camera, it's always pleasure. And whenever I sit with you, for your audience also, I know you're giving a lot of informative information. But whenever I meet you off the camera also, it's always informative things coming from you. So lovely. It's a great podcast that we had.
Likewise, Nitin. And thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this. And very soon I'll be making podcast and other videos full of information. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and to follow. Thank you very much.